Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. Glad you were with us. We are talking with elder law attorney Barbara Boone McGinnis. She is there in her office in Hendersonville, taking your questions about caring for a loved one who's aging. We've also moved into wills. We're about to go into trusts. We had a couple of calls in the middle of our will discussion. I want to just cap off the will discussion with this final sort of question or note. And the thing is, property is going to pass naturally. There's law that would say if somebody dies, it's going to go to so-and-so and so-and-so, whether you write a will or not. But I guess the appeal that you would make is what a gift it is to your kids to tell them what you want done, as opposed to having them try and figure it out. In other words, you're not going to be around to worry about it, but it's a gift, and it just causes, maybe there's a lot less heartache if you can take the time to do it. Is that a fair statement?
That's right. We mentioned laws of intestate succession. Every state has that. So that's how the state protects us in making sure that assets do transfer in the event of a non-plan. So how do assets pass? If you don't have a will, you don't have a trust, what happens to your assets when you die? Well, there are ways that you can own assets that really don't have anything to do with your will or your trust. And one of the things, a great example is real estate that you own with someone else. If you're married, we own real estate. It's called joint tenancy with a right of survivorship. So we're married, we often own real estate together. That doesn't require a will or a trust to pass that asset to the survivor. First spouse passes, second spouse then owns the property in its entirety. That person then needs some way of how will the real estate pass at my death. So my husband and I own a house together. He passes away. I'm going to own it. Then when I pass away, how do I make sure it gets to the kids in the right way? I can do that through a trust. I can do that through a will, and a will is going to have to go to probate. Sometimes folks like trusts because trusts are designed to avoid probate for the most part. I could put somebody on the deed with me, and that may or may not be a good idea. But that joint tenancy is a way of passing an asset along. You can make some bank accounts and bonds. You can make them payable on death. You can say, I want a POD on my bank accounts. And that's a way of transferring ownership of that bank account, much like having a beneficiary designation. That may or may not fit the goals of your estate plan, but it works as a way of transferring assets. And beneficiary designations, life insurance policies, IRAs, 401ks, annuities, they all have a mechanism of us naming a beneficiary in that for that particular asset. And that has absolutely nothing to do with our will or our trust. So you want to name a specific entity to be the beneficiary of your IRAs and your insurance for the most part. One thing you probably would not ever do, and I've seen this, it's not a great idea, is name your estate the beneficiary of your IRA or your 401k. Mostly it requires probate. So we've just blown the possibility of passing an asset without having to go to probate, but it also triggers a taxable event, accelerates a taxable event, passing on IRA. So that's another way that people can inadvertently mess things up. If your will says that I want everything to go to my spouse, but your IRA beneficiary is still your ex-spouse, guess where your IRA is going to go when you die? It's going to go to your ex-spouse because the beneficiary designation trumps your will. A lot of times folks have trouble comprehending how those two things relate to one another, the beneficiary designations and the will. And then if you add a trust to it, then it may get easier, or it may not. A trust can serve as a will substitute. It can say everything you want it to say about your heirs, your intended distributions, how and when do you want assets distributed, upon college graduation or upon a certain terminating age, or you can leave assets to a minor and name the trustee. So a trust can do a lot of great things for your estate, and you don't even have to have a huge estate to benefit from this. But the one thing that you do need to do if you're going to take full advantage of this document is you need to title assets to the trust or to the trustee of that trust. Because if you don't actually have any assets in your trust, there's nothing for your trust to distribute when you pass away. And so an easy example there is real estate. You do a quick claim deed or a warranty deed transferring ownership of the property from yourself as an individual to the trustee of your trust. Your trust now owns real estate that could pass free of probate.
Wow, okay.
But that's the big thing about trust, is that for it to do all the things you have taken the time to stipulate in your trust, like those terminating age and conditions and spendthrift protections that a trust can do for you, there's got to be a mechanism of getting assets into the trust to begin with for it to actually work.
Yeah.
I love them. We draft them all the time. They can help families meet a lot of goals, but they are a good bit of work to get them set up correctly.
We got to set those trusts up correctly. And what I was getting at with the wills is just give your kids some guidance. Don't have them try and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Because it's already a tough time. Give them some guidance and prevent this kind of, I don't know if it's bickering. Let's say it's not bickering. Let's just say just indecision. Help that difficult time go along more smoothly. Is that fair to say with wills?
It's very fair to say, and do not underestimate the amount of discord personal property can create in a family. Giving some direction about how personal property should be distributed, special things that you want to go to special people, write it out, put it with your testamentary instrument so that it can be followed. But a lot of times conflict is created over the personal property, the jewelry, maybe not the china and the crystal, but maybe, you never know what people want to fight over.
Just try and avoid that. Try and help out the next generation by taking care of some of that. Okay, we'll take a break. We'll come back, continue our discussion right after this.